What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Navs Effect podcast. I'm your host, Naveen Ganglani. I want to thank everyone who's been tuning into the recent episodes and everyone who's been checking out our work over at All Star Magazine. If you guys haven't seen it yet, we are the official or one of the official media partners for the upcoming visit of Derek Rose in Manila. So we'll be providing extensive coverage of Rose Above the Odds, is what it's being called, on September 18. And it's gonna be fun. Of course, personally, I was a Heat fan growing up, but if there was one guy whose jersey and shoes I bought, despite being a Heat fan, ironically, it was Derrick Rose. Even if he played for the Bulls, a Heat rival, that's just because I loved everything about Derrick Rose, what he stood for, his game, his passion, his love. I still remember that commercial where he ran past three Bulls, and that was just awesome. Anyway, we're all excited to see Derrick Rose here. I'm sure a few tears will be shed, so we'll be providing coverage in that. And also, we wrote a profile ahead of the PBA draft when Cole Misek, who almost played at Ateneo, played with Macau Black Bears, and is now trying his luck in the PBA. He's not just the guy you're gonna see in your For You page on Instagram and TikTok anymore. He's someone you're gonna be seeing in the PBA hopefully soon enough. All right, on this episode, we have Kiefer Ravena coming on. Kiefer is someone I've known since my early years covering the UAP, and there's a few basketball related stuff that he and I are going to talk about. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay, we're now back in the podcast, and Kiefer Ravena joins us. Kiefer, you were in Manila for a while. You were in Palawan for a bit. You were in
Yeah.
Greece. It felt like you were in a lot of places, but now I'm sure it kind of feels nice to be steady and just in one place for a while and focus back on getting to that routine. Huh?
Yeah, bro. I was all over the place, like what you said, this past summer, spending time with my family, with my friends, got married twice. Um, you know, was in a heaven of an experience going to Greece, meeting Michael Jordan, meeting, Hall of Famers, and just an amazing off season for me. But like what you said, it's nice to be back out here in Japan. Finally, a couple more months from what I've seen on social media. I think like 40 more days, 35, 40 more days before our first game officially starts in the B League, another tour around here in Japan. So, preparing for that mentally and physically.
I'm sure. I also see that you are training with Diego Lozano, someone who I've known also for a while now. He's also SNC with Meralco. On top of
Yes,
that,
yes.
training with True Focus, and you guys are doing some work at BSG with
Of
Miguel,
course. Yeah, yeah.
off
Of
off the
course,
court work.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Work doesn't stop. Like what Diego and I always say, that's the only thing we know what to do. Just work, 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 and yeah, just be ready.
I
It's up.
feel that.
Yeah,
I feel that, man. I'm expecting my first kid in December, and then I'm working like till 11:30, 12, and my wife's like, you have to stop this when our kid arrives because you're gonna be
yeah.
busy doing something else, right?
Oh no, yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm
And I'm just,
excited for you.
yeah.
I'm excited for you. I'm glad she didn't say that. I would want to get as much sleep as you might want to get as much sleep as you can for the meantime.
Right.
Because once
Right.
once once baby comes out, you'll get all the puyat in the world. But I'm sure it's gonna be worth it, brother.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Thank you. Well, the on the plus side is that a lot of sporting events in the United States happen in odd hours for us here in the Philippines and Asia, right? You got the late NBA games, you got the NFL season, March
Yeah.
Madness eventually.
Hmm.
Alex Iala, you just love to watch her matches at this point,
Yeah.
but sometimes it
Yeah.
starts at 3:20 in the morning. Well, I have to stay
True.
up taking care of baby, you
That's
know.
a valid excuse to stay up now. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
teach them young, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Teach them important lessons such as
Yeah.
under no circumstance is he allowed to be a Boston Celtics fan. But Kiefer, how are you approaching this upcoming B League season differently from all your other seasons playing basketball?
Well, siguro, just approaching it in the correct mindset, being in a good headspace during the off season is something that I've worked on and still continue to work on with Diego, Miguel, my trainers. Just being in a position where I know I could play well, healthy, in shape, and I think. we're headed to that direction. And we'll see how it goes. I can only tell so much just because I want to test it out in the playing field. We haven't really played any preseason game yet, so we're playing next week, our first ever preseason game. So hopefully, I get to show out and just be sure, make sure that I'm ready for the upcoming season.
So you're in your early 30s now. I would actually call that the prime of a basketball player's career. And a lot of people immediately say, oh, but physically, when you get to your 30s, that's when you kind of start slowing down a bit. The game
Mm-hmm.
slows down because your body slows down.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people forget is that in your early 30s, that's when your brain and IQ for the game is probably better than it's ever been.
Yeah.
You're not just thinking I'm gonna freestyle and figure out a way to score bahala na. You're reading the floor, you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking where to attack, you're looking at angles. So, do you feel this upcoming season it's gonna be the best version of you, given everything we just talked about?
Of course, as a basketball player, every season you would want to improve. And just to piggyback on what you said about being in the prime physically, there's so much, there's so many proofs out there that debunks that theory already. I mean, the NBA, you got LeBron James, you got Steph Curry, you got KD in their late 30s, LeBron's in their early 40s, but
Mm.
still top 10 players in the world, maybe even top five.
And in the NFL, you have Tom Brady who did that till like
Yes, exactly.
45. Yeah.
He was out there leading Super Bowl championship after another. So I guess when you talk about the prime physique, it's at the end of the day, it's still going to be up to you how you take care of your body, how you consistently stick to one routine, how do you meddle with non-negotiables with yourself. So yun eh. I mean, it's a matter of what you can control. We see it in the PBA. There's a lot of players you think past their prime but still out there hooping.
Ooh, Chris Ross.
Di
Salute.
ba? So, it's just a matter of how you take care of your body and make that commitment to yourself. And that's one thing me, Diego, my team have made, working out all throughout the year, just to put myself in a good position to be healthy and play as much games as I can. I mean, that's the most important thing. If you play, then you'll have an opportunity to showcase your talent. And if you're not available, then all your hard work comes to waste. So it's a matter of being scientific. It's a matter of recovering properly and just being mentally present every day. So hopefully, I do get to be at the best version of myself, and give me another chance to stay out here in Japan longer. So that's the goal. So hopefully, slowly but surely, I'm on my way towards that.
How is early 30s Kiefer Ravena training in the off season compared to early 20s or late 20s Kiefer Ravena?
Well, siguro the late 20s, I would say. The early 20s kasi it's really hard to think about the off-season grind since there's none. Siguro ang pinaka off-season na namin, it was during the last off-season I had in the Philippines was in college, maybe, all the summer leagues, all the preparations for the UAAP. And but still, you train whole year round because there are other leagues that you join even after the UAAP. So, but in the late 20s, first year out here in Japan, just trying to figure out a certain schedule. My first year, actually, parang na-feel ko na during the off-season, sabi ko, papahinga ako ng isang buwan. Parang napagod ako, parang kasi 60 games, after the pandemic, after everything, I was able to go home. But, as years progress, nakikita mo din kung ano yung mga kailangan mo i-work on. Low-key, I've already planned my off-season already, even without the season starting, just because of the schedule, the people, the gym, availability of certain facilities. I would want to make sure that I have it when I need it come off season. So, me, Diego, we talk. Miguel, we also talk about trips, family time, married lifetime. So it's all about making a good symphony of the things that I attend to. So yun ang siguro difference on how I look at basketball right now.
Yeah, well, when you're married, you're definitely gonna have to schedule a lot more other things, you
That,
know.
yeah, yeah, true, true.
An unhappy wife is an unhappy house,
Yeah.
and an unhappy house means
uh,
there's no way you can do anything. No matter how much you say, yeah, I'll just focus on my work if she's mad at me, upset at me. No, it's not the same. Your product doesn't end up
so
being the same.
it's
And
for sure.
happy wife, happy life. The truest thing in the world.
I'll take note of that.
But all the games that you've played over the years, there has to have been an impact, right? Because I've always felt the training in the Philippines. Now, thankfully, we have a lot of advanced young SNC coaches in the college game now that are taking note of this. But back in the day, you probably know this. Training sessions were 4 or 5 hours a day in
Mm-hmm.
college, and then you get to the PBA, you train every day too. I mean for the PBA guys, and now you're playing 60 games a season, and sometimes you'll add some off-season tournaments there, travel and whatnot. So really, if you're a baller in the Philippines, from the age, if you're in high school UAAP or NCAA, even before that, palarong pambansa and whatnot, from like 12, 13 years old onward, you're just playing so, 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 so much, right? And collectively, that's gonna eventually take a toll on your body. Maybe it's a little nagging injury here that you don't think is serious
Mm-hmm.
at first and grows into something more serious. Maybe it's burnout. Maybe it's mental. Some people, it's not that they fall out of love with the game, but they believe that just because they're not getting enough rest and because they're just playing all the time. And it's underrated how for a lot of people who grew up loving basketball like you, it's underrated how much of a mental challenge it can be. Realizing that basketball is now not just a game you love, but a job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, what are some of the fatigue that have added up and you have to deal with now that you might not have had to deal with before?
Oh well, siguro to begin with, I think I totally agree with what you said. No, that's why basketball isn't really for everybody. Basketball is a commitment that you have to make. That's why I admire basketball players. And I admire my peers. I admire my friends. Kasi I know the grind, especially the elite players. I know that the schedule isn't really doesn't always have to go on your end. There's a lot of sacrifices that comes with it, missing birthdays, missing family. I'm even speaking of the local players in the PBA, not even the us overseas guys. But it's part of the job. It's part of the commitment that you actually make even before going pro. That's why there's only a handful of people making it in the PBA, a handful of people making it overseas, and to disregard the effort, the sacrifice, the uh, time we had to put in to be where we are right now. It's a little bit disrespectful for our craft. Like what you said, all the casuals. The term now is the casuals will just say what they want to say, but they've never played in a level where we've played in, diba? So
Mm-hmm.
um, that's where again in the beginning you really have to find love with basketball. I'm sure um, to make it to where we are right now, you have to love basketball. There's just some other players who love basketball more than you do, So that's why they're there, So yun naman yun. So I guess I totally agree with what you said. Sometimes it comes to a point where there's the burnout, fatigue, mental fatigue. Siguro ako, to answer your question, maabot na ba? Parang ano parang siguro ano lang, hindi siya napapagod ka, pero nakikita mo lang yung future mo up until when mo siya gagawin.
Mm-mm.
Parang
The finish
siguro,
line.
Oo, yun lang yung nakikita mo. Pero hindi ka pagod kasi you're here and then the finish line is there. Malayo pa. You can't stop. Siguro if it makes sense, that's what I feel na parang I want to work, 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 work. Hindi ko pwede ma-feel yung pagod as long as I'm able to answer my whys, like why am I doing this, and I see the finish line. Maybe it's 2 years from now, maybe it's 3 years from now, 5 years from now. It's there. I think that's what I'm feeling right now at my age. So yun, but just the burnout of ayoko na mag-basketball. I think parang hindi ko pa siya na hindi pa siya sumasagi sa utak ko, and I think it's going to be a hard one if ever it does. It's gonna take something. It's gonna take something to make me say that.
For sure. With all the hours, I mean, you probably played more than 1,000 games at this point in your life, right? It's
Yeah, I would say.
all that dedication. But by the way, too, that's why, from all the things LeBron James has done, I think what impresses me the most is how at 40, 41, he is just going. That serious love for the game. Because, you know, being nearly a billionaire, he could live comfortably in his Hollywood mansion, run his businesses. He did start a tequila company, could just be drinking tequila the whole day. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean
but
that's that,
to go through the
that's what
grind.
you get. Yeah, that's what you get if you have a routine. Kasi
Yes.
dun ka hindi napapagod eh. Dun ka hindi na burnout. You have to do this to be able to be there. So, I mean, sorry to cut you off on that one, but I guess that's the difference. If you're able to find a routine that could keep you going, whether it's not in the morning, you have family time, 11 to 2, 11 to 3 is a non-negotiable because that's the time you work
Mm.
out. 4 to 5, that's when you do your meetings, business, podcasts, among other things. 6, 7 p.m. you have dinner with your family. 10 p.m. you probably watch Netflix with your wife, and then do the same
Love
thing over
love
again
your
on
wife at
Sunday,
10
di ba?
p.m.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, di ba? So if you do that consistently, I feel like LeBron James was able to do that in a very ang mahirap kay LeBron kasi he was able to do that consistently at a very high level. So, I
Straight
mean,
out of high school too.
yeah.
It's insane. And I also want to take this time to give applause to my colleagues in the media as well because well, you guys obviously get to play the game, but we watch the game, and then after you guys go home, that's even when our work starts, the writing, the
Yeah, yeah,
transcribing. It takes serious love for the game and for sports for media people to do what they do.
yeah,
And that also means miss birthdays, miss holidays, work on Sundays, and no matter how much you try to tell your family what you're doing, it's hard for them to completely understand and realize it unless you're the one doing it. So I just want
yeah,
to give a
for
shout out to
sure.
my friends in the media.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everybody in the media world, shout out. As long as you give responsible and takes that actually make sense, you guys will be fine.
Well, you gave me the perfect transition. Now, I think for full transparency, we should also say, Kiefer, that our conversation that led to scheduling this podcast episode was a response in part to a recent podcast episode I did with the Dean Quinito Henson. Now, his credentials do include more than 50 years of sports media in the Philippines. He was one of the original broadcasters of the PBA and one of the first guys to have a sports column. And I think it's fair to say that he has had contributions to the sports media world that has allowed the coverage of sports in the Philippines to grow exponentially. He did also say some comments in the recent episode that drew some criticism and ire and fair criticism, I would say, including some thoughts about FSAs, some thoughts about your brother 30, and other aspects, including recruitment and college ball. So you got to listen to some of the stuff he said, and now I would like to give you the platform to give your own thoughts and takes regarding the topics he discussed.
Well, wala naman eh. I was just intrigued on how it was actually said. I mean, of course, the dean. He's been there, for like what you said, 50 years now. And siguro, what just a few people just sent me the clips of him, you know, giving 30 as an example. it's ano lang, parang for me, it's really tough to, it's different when you suggest something or you impose something. I think with what he said, like he's telling 30 to join the draft or things like that. The kid's been a trailblazer. He's been doing his thing, being the first one to be the Asian quota player out here in Japan. He was able to penetrate the league with Dubai being, another first sa Dubai League and the ABA League. You can talk about numbers, but you disregard the numbers that led him to there and just talk about the present and in a high level league. I think that's not giving credit where credit is due. So that's the part where I disagree, and of course the FSA thing too. I don't agree with that. Of course, that's his opinion. Doesn't mean that we all have to agree with that. And shows in the comment section too that there's a lot of people who disagreed. Siguro not to he was saying about he's not totally agreeing. There's no place for the FSA people in the UAAP, but honestly, Kareem Abdul, who else was there when I was there? Arafat, si Charles Mami, who
Your
else?
teammate was Chibuize Ike for 1 year, I
Ike
think.
for a year, but he was there for a couple of years that I was training with them as a residency. All those FSAs, all those
I mean, Aroga probably cost you a trip to the
Alfred,
finals 1 year. Yeah.
talk about Alfred, Prince from FU,
Charles Mami, the two
UE,
seasons.
yeah, with UE. Everybody kahit sa Adamson, I just forgot their names, but sorry if I forgot your name.
Papi Sar, I think it was. It
Yeah,
might have
Poppy
been.
Star was there, and there's another one. Naabutan ko pa yon. They all made my game better. It was, how many nightmares I had with Alfred Aroga just blocking my shot. How to improve over that. Not because of the mental thing, but I know that I'll play against those players more in the future. How to be crafty and things like that. So it improves the game. Like here in Japan, they allow three imports. They're naturalized players. Now they actually opened the Asian. I don't know if it's been open or they just opened their Asian quota players in Western Asia. So we have five Lebanese guys now. I think four or five Lebanese guys now here in the B League, among other nationalities. So it's the growth. It's the growth of those players, and it's a challenge. Of course, we do have the physical disadvantages with those types of players, but tayo nga pag binabaha nga tayo, tinatawanan lang natin tsaka nagsiswimming pa tayo. Very resilient ang mga Pilipino Sometimes it's a joke, sometimes you really feel hard on it na we can't suffer like this, things like
Right.
that. Pero I'm speaking about the resilience of us Filipinos. 'Di ba? Magugulang nga tayo, lagi nga tayo napapaaway lagi. Kasi I mean, to my point, there's a way. It's not like it's out of our control Parang na, wow, okay, they're here, wala na tayong magagawa. What can we do? Take them out, ban them out. Things like that. He was saying about the NCAA, it's more progressive minds over there. When it comes to viewership, when it comes to, a UAAP team versus an NCAA team, I don't think, the competition, we can see. We watch it. Diba? Parang pagdating sa Summer League, who's always in the finals? It's a
The
UAAP,
UAP teams.
UAAP team. And that's not a knock on the other league. It's a challenge to those other schools. Diba? I mean, as long as you put it into that vision, that perspective, it's growth The problem is, you're reacting to an inevitable. 'Di ba? You're reacting to wala tayong magagawa. Nandiyan tayo sa may mga malalakas na player, malalaki, strong, physically built that takes a position of a Filipino. Well, I saw in one comment on your pod if there's like 8 guys who's like 6'8", 6'9", 6'11", go ahead, please, let us know. 8 teams need him. So I mean, that's for me. Again, this is my opinion. The dean doesn't have to agree with this. And okay, I'm defending my brother because I feel like he needs the credit he deserves. And again, in the PBA, the national team, he brought up the national team and things like that. Example, he was saying, maybe 30 being in the PBA might give a resurgence when it comes to the national team
National
with
team.
like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, pero I that's what I watched,
Yeah, you weren't the only one who got that idea from what he said.
'di ba? Parang let's say Arvin Tolentino. Arvin Tolentino, best player of the conference for one conference, best scorer. He's in the PBA. Why is he not in the national team? 'Di ba? Robert Bolick, one of the best
Mm,
playmakers in the PBA. Why is he not in the national team? Does it mean that they're not good? No. Probably means they don't fit a certain system. Probably means that somebody's better in that position. 'Di ba? So, but it doesn't mean that you're not good, and it doesn't mean that if you're in that league, you'll have a better chance of making it to that team. 'Di ba? So, I mean, that's just how I would put it. Being a basketball player, and again, there's a lot of guys out here who could probably make a strong case for the national team. Ray's here, Matthew Wright, Roosevelt Adams. I'm sure everybody, each one of us will, lock in and die for a spot for the national team. But if we don't make it, does it mean that we're bad players or we're not good? Or because we're probably not playing in the local league? I don't think so. And I don't think uh, playing in a certain league affects your opportunity in the national team. So yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of how you put things into perspective, and that's just how I am. That's just how I see it. Again, progression, growth. If you don't have any um what do you call this, things to be scared of, like opportunities for the other Filipino local college players to shine just because they're FSA players. And then I mean, there's really something wrong, na pag kailangan tayong magbago ng rules sa basketball, tinatanggalan natin ng opportunity yung mga bata. Yung mga batang yan gusto lang din naman mag-basketball. They also want an out in their lives. That's why they went here in the Philippines. 'Di ba? To study, to hoop, maybe get noticed. 'Di ba? I mean, that's what the UAAP did to Ben Mbala. He played for Cameroon for the national team, played maybe in the league in France, gave an opportunity, but he was in Cebu, just playing basketball, and look what the UAAP did to him. So, and he came from LaSalle too. So, yeah, I guess that's my piece of that episode. So, hopefully, other people would notice our perspective too, and how I'm not saying that everybody should agree with mines. This is just like ako. I just love the game so much. If I can do anything to help build basketball, especially in the Philippines, I would. But it's certain thoughts maybe or things like that would uh, not really, will deflect the growth of where we want to be. So I mean, that's my take on it. And yeah.
Of course, very thankful to Kiefer for his thoughts. Now, before we proceed, I should say that we did get to feature Kiefer one time as well on an All Star
All
magazine
star, yeah,
cover.
bro.
Yes, sir. One of our OG cover guys, Kiefer
Oh,
Ravena.
it
We
was,
did,
it was. Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah. And we
Over
had a
at the
similar.
when we opened that Hennessy court,
Ah, yes,
right?
sir. The
Was that the
colorful,
one?
awesome court. Yes,
That
sir.
was the
Yes,
one,
sir.
right? That was the one.
That
Yeah, yeah,
was the
yeah.
one. Yeah, it's we also had a video interview then, and I wrote an article about it. So you guys check out All Stars website, and you'll find it there under the magazine section. So Kiefer, there's one thing I want to bring up that Quinito said about 30 stint in Dubai. He mentioned that he feels and he believes 30 is getting better going up against the likes of Davis Bertans in practice and other European and international level talent. What Quinito said was he is getting better at practice, but is he actually getting better if he's not getting playing time in the actual game? Now, you're a basketball player, you have attended practices, you have attended games, you've seen so much of the game in a competitive level. Is a part of that true that if you only getting a lot of touches and playing time in practice, but not in the actual games, you don't have as much room to grow? Or are those practices where you're going up against top level competition enough to make you significantly better?
No, I agree. I totally get his point. I agree to it up to a certain point. Siguro to start with, before I go straight to 30, like for example, you have here in Japan in the B League, we have collegiate players.
Mm.
Around January, high school, college players, university players can join a team, and after the season, whether or not they want to jump pro or go back to their college and play more, um, it happens. We have we have a rule like that here in the B League. So those players, they're young, they rarely play, they barely play. They're just there for practice, and that's their game. So of course, application, it's about the game. Pero in practice, you definitely can get better. Definitely can get better. And I don't think it regresses you if you just don't play. If you don't play, you just practice. You just won't have an opportunity to showcase or whether or not see what if you've improved. Siguro doon. And with 30's case, he's in a headspace wherein he knows that. Like he knows, like what Kinito said, he knows that he's getting better in practice. He's teammates with Musa, with Abbas, Prepelic, Bertans, Nate Mason, those guys, like EuroLeague guys, EuroLeague names, household names. Um, and Avramovic from Serbia. So in practice, that's like heaven in practice. I have no choice but to go hard and treat this as my game, because in the game, I know I won't be able to play 20 minutes, 25 minutes like I was playing in the B League. So it's all about, again, perspective. Like, um, like where am I right now? So in practice, I have to go 100%. In the games, if I go 100% in practices, I know I'll be ready when time comes. The best thing about it, I just in the game, I just have to go hard for what, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, because yun lang yung mabibigay sa akin. But the coaches, assistant coaches, organization, they'll see that. And I get it na si Thirdy siguro he's too young to settle for 5, 8, 10 minutes. But he has his own goals. You can't tell somebody to not pursue his own goals. If that's the direction he's headed, diba? So if um, that's the thing with the decisions Thirdy makes, alam niya yon, and he knows what comes with it. 'di ba? I mean,
What if Kiefer, sorry to cut you off, but I just got curious and I want to ask it before I lose my train of thought. What if you were in that position where you were told you get to go to Dubai, you get to train with some of these top tier talent, but
mhm.
you'll only get 2 to 4 minutes a game? What would your perspective be? Would you take that? Or would you lean more towards the I want to play in the actual game type?
Well, ako, sa situation ko, honestly, when I thought about it, na pag nandun ako, I think I'm in a situation wherein it's not about the game na. I have to find security. You know, if ever I was there, 30 was offered like a year. You
Hmm.
know, I'm in a stage where I have a plan that I want to get married. I want to go to this family. I want to build my this. So that was my situation. That
So
was
that's
my
where the
it.
human side
It,
comes
it
in.
yeah, yeah. It didn't really matter whether I play or not. It's where my security was. You know, that was the decision maker. Like honestly, like I'm really, whether or not. And I was also in touch with my reality. You know, 30 is young. He's stronger. He's bigger. He can compete with those guys. You know, I play a different position. I'm older, and that's a whole different level that I knew I wanted to challenge myself, but at the same time, I had to be realistic to go back to that part.
Right,
So
right.
I have to be secure. I have to, be this. If I sign that, pass it up, I get cut after 6 months, pass out a 2-year deal. Maybe, maybe until now, I'm still sick to my gut. So it's a matter of, that was my perspective and situations also. 30 has no family, and even if he has no girlfriend, there's no girlfriend to watch in the games. I don't know where that came out. So I'm just throwing it out there, bro. So uh yeah, I mean, if I was there, that would be it. So uh different situation for me, different case where I had to look beyond basketball, look beyond playing time. And yeah, that's why I stayed out here in Japan. Wala naman akong offer dun sa Dubai. So, but if ever though, I think that would be my way of thinking.
Thank you for that perspective. That was really helpful. And I like how you went with the human answer to it because a lot of times we forget, even if there's a lot of money in the table or there's a lot of years or you get all these minutes, it depends also what makes it work for you because if
No,
it's
for
not
sure.
if it's not working for you off the court, it's not going to work on the
Yeah, yeah,
court.
yeah. Yeah, I
That's
mean,
the
if you're mentally out of it, if yeah, of course, there's a lot of money. Not in 30's case again. But if your mental is not in the right headspace, it's tough to work, bro. Like kayo, like even in the media world,
exactly.
if you're out of it, like you're not productive. How especially kayo pag mental nyo, kami kahit papano, medyo nabobobo kami sa basketball. Minsan malakas kami, kaya namin, ganyan. Meron kami outlet eh. Pero pag kayo, pag wala kayong tulog, pagod kayo,
Masisira yung keyboard, bro.
oh, 'di ba? 'Di ba? Parang ganun kayo, 'di ba? I mean, lalo na kayo pag kayo na burnout, parang okay, sige. Now, procrastination starts, deadlines passed.
Yep.
Boss galit, 'di
Boss
ba? So,
calling you, yeah,
uh,
where's this, where's that?
there's like what you said, there's always the human side of it that I always tell now that I'm a co-founder of BSG, and I handle the basketball operations for BSG. That's what I tell
Awesome.
them. That's what I tell them. The money is there. The money will be there. But you also have to think about other stuff, whether it's convenient for you. Do you like your environment? Do you like the city that you live in? Is
Like
it
your teammates?
you,
Do
you
your
know
teammates like you? Yeah.
is it healthy for you? There's so much things that actually comes with making deals, and making decisions in general. Siguro there's just a handful of situations wherein, man, I just really can't pass up this money. That type of stuff, di ba? So, but again, handful lang yan. Bibihira yan mangyari sa basketball career.
I like how you brought up BSG. We'll be talking about that in a bit. First, I want to get to some mailbag questions sent by the Navs Effect podcast community. So we'll do quick rapid fire here. I want to get as
Go.
many of these as possible. First one from Paulo. Do you see yourself finishing your pro career in the Philippines?
I would if given a chance, they don't ban me. Yeah, I would probably play. If they allow me to play, I would want to. I mean, I started my career in the PBA. At least have an asset. I
Uh,
would have a moment.
Uh, oh man, yeah, how retroactive is that rule, right? I mean, I'm
Oh yeah,
hearing
right.
more and more now that it's not actually retroactive. It's only July onwards, but we'll see. We can
We'll
never
see.
be too sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, if given the chance, would you consider suiting up for the national team again?
Given a chance, hopefully, I think I would probably do it for the Asian Games. If there's an open tryout for the Asian Games, yeah, I'd kill for that. But if not, I think I'm good with the national team. I think I've done my dues and bashing already. I'm good with it.
Oh man, Coach Chot, that what he went through was just difficult. Okay, this one, Jordan or Kobe?
Damn. Uh, my goat is always Michael Jordan, but my hero is Kobe Bryant.
I like
But
that.
okay, I'll go with Jordan.
There.
I'll go with Jordan. I'll go with Jordan.
Thirdy or Danny?
That yeah, that one. Yeah, I'll stay in the middle. I'll go for both.
Depends on the situation and who
Yeah,
you want there. Depends on the
depends on
situation.
who's in trouble.
Are you always the peacemaker when people are in trouble at home?
No, I think I've had bigger problems for them to fix.
Because I feel like it's an eldest child thing when your siblings or your parents are arguing. It's usually the eldest child who kind of has to
Yeah,
solve it, right?
probably that's where the manong comes in.
The manong, exactly. You have to
Yeah,
see. I'm an eldest child too, so I get it. You have to grow up
yeah,
faster than the others. This
yeah.
one from Jong, and that last question was from Ron. This one from Jong. Kiefer's best Ateneo 5 versus 30's best Ateneo 5. Who wins in the game?
So I
So
think we
the
will. I
you
think we
think
will. Yeah, my best five was.
probably 12, right? 2012
Wait.
or
No,
11.
I think 11 would do. Eman, me, Kirk, Nico, and Greg.
Oh, that was a tough 5.
That was
So
2011.
so
Who's
30's
third? Best five.
2019 probably the undefeated season.
Is that Matt Nieto, Mamuy?
Yeah, 30 Kwame,
Yeah.
SJ off the bench.
Well, starting five, brother. We just talking about starting
Oh,
five.
that's a good point. No, no, best five. So maybe SJ's
Best
on the
five.
court.
Oh, best
Yeah,
five.
yeah.
Best five. I think our starting five, I would say, was my best five, but we was also deep because pause. Uh, we were out there with the second group also making it to the PBA.
That's
So
true.
that was tough too. That was a tough Coach Norman squad.
That's true. All right, now I want to talk a bit first about Greece because you're obviously in the room with all these icons of different sports, and you got Bam Adebayo on one side, Jaime Jaquez there, Carmelo Anthony there. Um, Jesus, who else am I forgetting? I said Carmelo already. Rui Hachimura on one side.
Yeah.
But obviously, when the GOAT arrives, the aura is different. The aura
Mhm.
changes, right? So take us through the moment because I'm sure that MJ kind of waited for everyone to gather. Luca was there too, by the way.
Yeah, because that.
MJ, I'm sure, waited for everyone to gather around. Then he showed up. So the moment that MJ enters the room, what's that like? Is it a spiritual experience?
Yeah, actually, I mean, just honestly, it was. No, it wasn't the case. It wasn't the case for that situation. We had a we had a group thing, and I was there maybe around 10-15 minutes early than the call time. And the funny thing is, like, me and Rui Hachimura was there together like 15 minutes early, and everybody was like, "Oh, y'all are early." It's like
No Pinoy timing when it
no,
comes to
I
MJ.
told him it was the Japanese in us
I see.
that yeah, so, we were 15 minutes ahead of time, and he was already there. MJ was already there, and then honestly, when I walked in, like what you said, akala ko, dadating lang siya pag nandun na lahat, and it makes sense. Diba? Why would he be early over there? He's the main man, diba?
Yeah, that's what he did in the NBA 75 special, the top 75 players. He was the last to arrive. Yeah.
Diba? So, he was fashionably late for that event. But here, he was already there. And then the moment I actually entered the room, I sat to the closest couch that I was able to find. And I was just there on my phone, but there's probably like somebody, it feels like somebody was like tapping me, like the spiritual experience that you said, like, hey, look over your shoulder, he's there, something like that. And then one of the executives came in. I said hi, and then she told me that, hey, have you met Mike? I was like, oh, he's here already. I was like, yeah, like, come here. Then that was my first encounter with MJ. Um, so it was again, I mean, it was a kid in a candy store moment for me. As a basketball fan, it was something like for them. Probably it's normal. They play against each other every single time, every single season for 82 games. So if Lucas sees Zion, hey, what's up, bro? Maybe something like that. If Rui sees Luca, I see you every day. There's nothing special. But for me, it was everything. Diba? Parang sabi nga ng wife ko, sabi nga ni Diana, parang never pa kitang nakikita yung ngiti mo, ganyan. Parang iba kasi she finally understood like uh what basketball meant for me. Parang ganun yung realization niya. And natuwa siya kasi parang she was able to see a different side of me, like being a kid again, seeing those people, being able to converse with them, and just, being within arm's reach with my idols. So it was a great experience.
And it was so fitting that I was at Greece and you're all dressed in white. I mean, it was meeting of the Olympus gods or something like that. That was the vibes that were coming out of it, the aura. Um, you did share some words with MJ. I remember a post about it on the BSG IG account. So I'm not sure if it was a long conversation or a quick few seconds, but even if it was 2 seconds, it's one of the best 2 second stretches of your life, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So what was that conversation like?
Uh, it was like what you said. It wasn't too fancy. It wasn't too formal. Just a casual guy. I told him, like what I said. Personally, I felt like I shouldn't be there. My thoughts, just things running to my thoughts, like, oh, I'm actually here. No, I feel like, this is so surreal. And when the executive introduced me, saying that he's our brand endorser, the only one from the Philippines. That's where it happened. That's where it happened. Where he told me, and then he reminded everybody that we're actually here for a reason. Everything goes through him. It's he has the final say on who represents the brand, and having that validation, I think it's really hard to top, honestly. So I mean, now all I have to do is make sure to keep the story as authentic as I can and make my game louder than everything else. So that's how I came out of Greece with a new sense of responsibility and appreciation to all the people that allowed me to be there.
Drank the nectar of the gods in basketball terms.
Oh,
Okay,
true, true.
I have to ask, I'm a Heat fan. What were the conversations like with Bam and Jaquez? Did you get to talk to them?
With Bam, just a little bit, high hellos with Triple J. Um, Me and my wife and Triple J we were able to hang out, have coffee, have a little snack, and talk about basketball, and his previous experience with the Board of Greatness because he was already there last year when it happened. So I was asking questions, asking about his situation in Miami, um, and yeah, we it was a lengthy conversation, um, talking about the Philippines, inviting him to come over soon, maybe for NBA or anything that he wants to do for vacation and things like that. I told him BSG will handle it, and yeah, I mean, just normal basketball stuff. Learning from those guys is very important for me, as I still try to bring out the student of the game in me.
So, can I expect a bounce back season from Jaquez this year? You think so?
Oh yeah, 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 for sure, because he wants a contract extension. That's all he needs. That's all he needs. For the Heat fans, that's all you need to hear. Whoever's expiring, whoever's in the trade market, expect a ball out.
That's awesome to hear. Now, BSG, it's been brought up a few times now. I've been fortunate to work with you guys in some projects as well, with Miguel and the brothers. And recently, you guys have added to your roster of talent. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It's something that you guys have been working on for the better part of the last 2 years. I actually got to do an interview with Miguel last time when Kyle Kuzma was in town, and there's an article that
Yeah.
I'm gonna release about it. And now the quotes that you're gonna give me is probably gonna add more context to it too. But this is a partnership that really started when Miguel took the test to be a FIBA licensed agent, and conversations with you that went from preliminary to more advanced, bigger vision, macro perspective. And here you guys are now. You're an agency that thinks global, from what I understand. Your main goal is to portray to the basketball players and maybe eventually other sports as well what the opportunities are from a global perspective, to think beyond their current environment. Where was the inspiration from this journey to start an agency, and, if I can say, what some people are now calling you and Miguel, the LeBron and Rich Paul version of Philippine basketball or Philippine sports representation?
Well, I mean, those are big shoes to fill right away. Siguro it all started from a couple years ago where me and Miguel were just playing golf. The thing me and Miguel was we had similarities already when it comes to thinking big. We thought about something and we said that, brother, if you're going to dive into this, we gotta dive in full steam ahead. So we took our time, talked about steps that we had to take, and like what I said, 2 years in the making, almost 2 years in the making, and here we are with BSG. So we just in my situation, I've always, I mean, you've known me for quite some time now. I've always been that guy who just wants to help basketball, whether or not when it comes to grassroots programs, teaching high school collegiate players, um, mentorship, and among other things. I'm just always for the improvement of the game. That's one legacy that I would want to leave. So with the agency, that's where my legacy comes into practice. With my experience and my knowledge, I get to bring a lot of those to those players who want to experience what I've experienced. Whether they want to go global, they want to play locally, I'm there. The manong comes into play. And with Miguel, we always, I mean, the biggest part of our agency siguro is the communication. I think communication goes a long way, especially with players nowadays. We just don't want to be, um,
Left in the dark.
and at the same time, just another agency. We had to make sure there are existing agencies in the Philippines right now. We had to make sure we brought something to the table, and whether or not, um, you know, it's training, health and wellness, making sure you get what you need, nutrition, mental coaching, financial advice, financial education. We're there, and it's a dialogue for us. Not just with us, with our players, and we want our players to, of course, be successful. And if they're successful basketball players, we'll be very happy. But if they'll be successful people, I think we've done our job. So that's where the vision is. That's the long term goal of BSG, and we make sure that we cover all bases, and you know stay in our lane, and believe in the vision.
Now, I'm sure that you can't reveal much about how a meeting goes, how you pitch to other players, and how you talk to them. But when Kiefer Ravena enters a room with Miguel and you talk to a Renza Bando or you talk to a Forsky Padrigal, and by the way, for those wondering, some of the notable standouts now at BSG, Kiefer, Renz, Jasmine Hosson, Forsky Padrigal, recently you announced Jello Crisostomo and Koji Buenaflor, and I'm sure there are
Yes.
others you're still working on. But when you enter the room and talk to these guys, what is your pitch? What is your presentation? How do you connect with them? Obviously, they know you as Kiefer Ravena, basketball player, champion with Ateneo playing in the B League, but how do you connect with them to turn that perspective from Kiefer the player to Kiefer the guy who potentially will be my representative slash manager?
Well, of course, I would say all the pitching, all the numbers, it comes from Miguel. That's not my forte. I mean, that's where Miguel comes into play. That's why, we're partners. But probably where I come into play is when we talk about basketball. When it comes to training, when it comes to film, when it comes to what you have to work on,
True
game.
focus also?
Yeah, with True Focus, we customize their training specifically for their own game on what I see, um, they have to improve on to reach the goal. Not just I'm just you want to improve on this, but for you to be able to play, for example, in Korea, for you to be able to play, example, in Japan, you got to be this player. I tell it to them, and then if they agree, we have to work on something. They don't, or what do you want to do? Let's work on that. Again, once you enter whatever sports agency, once you enter whoever your representation, once you enter BSG, we're a team now. Whatever your decision is, we're gonna ride and die till that, di ba? So, ako naman, when we pitch, we basically pitch a dream, bro. Like, we want you. We know that you want to achieve this. That's what we're selling, a dream, and we're gonna work for it. Like, if you ask our players, very hands on. They'll have updates with each and everyone. Maybe from me, maybe from Miguel, maybe from the both of us. Um, and we're just very organic and natural. I think we treat each other as brothers and sister because Jazz is there, in the family, and so I'm sure ganun din naman sa mga ibang agency. And again, it's not a competition, I would say. It's a matter of making the future of Philippine basketball, the future basketball players, happy and successful. If we all have that mindset, I think basketball will be in good hands.
Now I'm gonna ask you a question because it's something I've heard, and feel free to answer it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more of a matter of these players are coming to you guys because they want your type of representation?
Uh, Probably some of them actually reached out to us, and we made sure that, hey, are you represented by anybody? And in that industry, word of honor is very important. We make sure that everything's settled, whether or not you've been represented or you still have a representation. We don't meddle with things that comes into legal aspect, and I think so far we've able to covered all of those.
Mm.
So, again, like what I've said earlier, we just want to stay in our lane. That's and just ride the course. We're not here for competition. We're out here to help those kids. If others treat it as such, that's out of our control. But we're gonna do what we're here to do is to guide those guys, guide those kids to be successful people. And those who think otherwise, wala namin magagawa dyan. Di ba? Parang as long as kami, alam naman namin kung ano yung nagawa namin na maayos sa mga batang yun.
Excellent. Thanks for answering that, Kiefer. Now, before we call it a wrap on what's been an incredible podcast episode, I'm very thankful for your time. I guess I feel the need to ask you, what's your advice in terms of how people should perceive basketball? Because basketball now more than ever has become very nuanced with
Mm-hmm.
discussions in the media, player podcasts, when coaches give their thoughts post game, when you have the armchair analyst saying this guy needs to step up, obviously the growth of the international
That, that,
game.
that was the term pala, armchair analyst. I like it. I like it.
It's an OG term. OG term. I'll shout out my guy JP Manan for being the first one to mention it to me. You obviously have the talking heads now because look, personally, not so much here in the Philippines, but globally, and I understand the struggle. Sometimes the media folks need to stir up some fire to get the viewership. Because at the end of the day, the media provides this content and the work to an audience, which are sports fanatics. But to be quite honest, a lot of sports fanatics love this side of sports discussion. Is he brave enough? Does he have what it takes? Is he clutch? Does he have a clutch gene? Nowadays, you're hearing it about the WNBA as well. They're complaining for money, even if they deserve more money.
Yeah.
Should they just be thankful for what they have? So it's very nuanced now. But in your words and in your opinion, to keep the purity of the game sacred, what's your best advice in terms of how fans and maybe even media folks such as myself or the veterans, what's the best way to look at the game to keep the purity and sacredness of the game of basketball?
Hmm. Let me think about this so I could put it properly. Uh, Not really advice. Siguro my take lang. It's siguro as time goes on, fans are also getting smarter and smarter because through experience, through what they see, what they've watched, they decipher things too. Like that's why what's the problem locally na sinasabi nila, I don't believe it, but sinasabi nila na scripted yung ganyan, scripted yung ganito, aabot sa game 7 yan kasi sila yung magkalaban. 'Di ba? Parang how do they come to that conclusion? 'Di ba? So it means that there's a pattern, there's experiences that leads up to that. So maybe that's where it's coming from. And with media, with platforms, I have a platform partner, you have a platform, media people have their own platforms. um Seen it with Denzel, he said it with Denzel, the problem with media right now, it's a matter with truth in the media, it's a matter of who puts it out first, and that's the truth, 'di ba? Yun na yung nangyayari, yun na yung pinaniniwalaan.
Speed is the
Whether
game now, yeah.
di ba? That's ewan ko kung mali ako, pero that's how
No,
that's
you're
that's
true.
the trend now, di ba? Na parang
If
you
you're
just put,
first, you get the most engagement. Yeah.
yeah, if you're first, then you're true. Yun na kagad eh. Pero once time goes by na parang ano hindi pala to, di ba? Fake news pala, ganito pala. Inuna lang para lang, di ba? Or, that's why um with the smart people now, yung mga nagiging matalino, alam na rin naman nila, it's rage bait, it's clickbait. It's like, they don't fall for that anymore. Diba? Parang makikita mo naman na din sa comments na parang, alis ka na dito. Hindi yan, hindi, this is not the place. But again, so people are getting smarter, and I hope it continues, not just with basketball. It goes to that way. Um, and siguro, ano lang talaga eh, like it's, the opinions, again, to each his own. Diba? That's your opinion, but we also can't be sensitive if people don't agree to our opinions. Diba? Parang there's always gonna be a common ground. You agree to what I've said, like what I said kanina, I agree with, getting better in practice, but at the end of the day, you still have to play. Diba? I agree with that to a certain point. Um, and find the common ground for that, make it happen and fix it, and just probably be open and be consistent to what you agree on, 'di ba? Parang if you set your values to this, is stick to your values, 'di ba? Parang ang hirap magkamali kapag may ano ka parang pag may tao kang may prinsipyo, parang ang hirap hindi genuine yung gawin mo. 'Di ba? Kasi alam naman ng tao na ito yung pinaninindigan mo, ito yung paninindigan mo. Hindi ka you don't sway through weather, 'di ba? Pag masama parang ayoko diyan, ayoko diyan, ayoko diyan, 'di ba? If you have your values, if you have your principles, I think whatever you do, it comes out genuine, and people would see that. People would feel that na this is what you want to say. This is what you believe in. And I'm not saying that I'm the most valued and most principled guy out here in the world. I've done my mistakes. I've done my time. But with with those mistakes, I was able to open my mind, bro. Like honestly, I was able to absorb more things. Like okay, my opinion, it's not the end of the world. I mean, this is not the end all be all of everything. It's not my way or the highway. When you probably talked to me 10 years ago, I would probably said a different thing, di
Very
ba?
different. Yeah, it was a different
Di ba?
time.
So, but again, through mistakes, through time, through the people I meet in the media world, in the basketball world, whether it comes to the oldies, when it comes to the new guys, I continue to learn. And if we try to do that, I think everybody would have that perspective also. Na pag open lang tayo, na tsaka hindi tayo masyado sensitive, sa mga sinasabi ng tao. If you always, siguro ang pinaka-advice ko lang is just always have a positive outlook. Kahit sinasabihan ka, whether you get called out, there's a reason for it. If you feel like there's no reason for calling it out, block it out. That's it. Move on. Diba? Pero if you feel something that bothered you for being called, maybe there's something wrong. Maybe I have to check it out. Maybe I have to look in front of the mirror and see what's wrong. Maybe it's me. Diba? Maybe it's my environment. So open lang. I think if we're very open through suggestions, opinions, and how the growth is when it comes to basketball, the pureness of it will come back slowly but surely, and will help everybody be happy. So, but again, it's a process. I believe in that. I believe it's not a hopeless case. Dahil nga basketball purist ako na gusto ko talaga for the love of the game. I still have hope in it. I know there's a lot of people that could help us achieve that, and using our platforms correctly. And yeah, I mean, yun naman sa akin, parang, again, may mga bagay na tayo, bro, na hindi na natin makokontrol. Yun na lang dun sa makokontrol na lang natin, di ba? So, para masaya na din lahat.
Fantastic. That was Kiefer Ravena. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, follow the podcast, leave a review, and stay tuned for more episodes. Kiefer, thanks for coming on again, and I'm sure this will not be the last time I have you on the podcast. Can't wait
For
to have
sure,
you back,
brother.
buddy. Thank you
All
for your
right, man.
time.
Thank you.